Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe, and I am a weapon of mass instruction. Let's see if I can keep this under 10 minutes this time, shall we? First, I want to apologize to anybody who's tried to contact me in the last couple of days. I've been just running around doing all sorts of other stuff, and I apologize. I'm only paying minimal attention to exterior events at the moment, and I am a little ashamed to say that. I'd rather be there in order to keep an eye on things and just offer whatever support I can. So rest assured, if you've tried to talk to me, if you sent me a comment, I'm not ignoring you, okay? I'm not trying to ignore you. I will talk back. I will begin dialogue, as those politicians like to fucking say. All right. Real quick, though, I was just talking to a friend who sees some things. And everybody who's keeping their eye on the sky, good job. If you're looking out on airplanes, if you live next to a military base that has an air squadron, keep an eye out on any transports you might see there, because this guy in the southern regions, shall we say, I don't want to pinpoint where he is exactly because I don't want to freaking endanger him in any way, but he has reported sightings of a Russian transport, okay? And before you guys, anybody who might not completely agree with this idea that the Russians are here, before you jump the gun and start screaming at me about it, think about this. It's easy to tell one country's transports from another, military-wise, because most nations tend to put their flags on their airplanes, all right? So this was most definitely a Russian transport. It had the red, blue, and white freaking three-stripe flag. That's what this guy saw. From the looks of it, it wasn't big enough to make trans-Pacific flights or even transatlantic flights very easily without refueling. However, just to point out a few things to everybody. China is building a base in Cuba. If I'm not mistaken, they're working out a deal with the Cuban authorities to put their own base down there, and there ain't nothing we can do about it here in the States. Nothing to be done except watch it happen. Russia and China both hold military garrisons in South America, South and Central America. So they do have combat capabilities when it comes to, if the shit hits the fan and they decided to assault the U.S., they could do it. Lots of different scenarios. Lots of different possibilities. I was talking to my friend. One of the things he pointed out was Asphalt Machine has some rock and bass. One of his ideas was that they could begin military exercises up north in the Baltic area, Northern Europe, and do joint exercises up there with the naval forces and possibly some marine forces. And once our eyes are turned, once the U.S. military apparatus has its eyes turned towards the north, that's when they hit the south, freaking down by Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, all those Gulf states. All right. That could be on the chopping block if it came to a direct assault, because of all their assets being in Central and South America. China building that base in Cuba. We're in the process of getting the go-ahead to do so. All right, so if the shit hits the fan, there's a lot of different possibilities in play. Russia and China also, they do have trans-Pacific capabilities just like we do. So a direct assault could come from that direction. But it's going to be a matter of sleight of hand, all right? Wherever the media is pointing, that's not where it's going to come from. I seriously doubt that. In other news in the Middle East, there have been reports of Iran's top brass military officials all coming together for a war council. And yeah, I know we hear about something like that happening all the time, saber rattling and all that shit. But basically what it comes to right now is they're looking at all the troop placement and movements in the what the hell's the name of that sea? In the Gulf of Aden? Is that it? right off the coast of Iran. They're looking at ways to deal with that situation, and there are possible solutions. So apparently there are huge troop movements in play. There are missiles being put into play, and I'm not talking about like just for training exercises, the whole saber rattling. I'm talking about being put exactly into position in order to repel any sort of attack. There have been reports of them fortifying known nuclear facilities. Known, that is, sorry. KNOWN. With extra layers of cement and steel. And if you're wondering why that is, it's mainly to prevent those resources from being airstriked. All right, prevent them from getting hit by a bunker buster or some such. So shit's heating up there. It looks like Iran is preparing for all-out war, possibly by September, October time frame. About 1 to 2 months from now. That is, of course, assuming that America and Israel don't preemptively strike them. But it's looking like they are gearing up for making the first hit. What else? Russian plane. Okay, and we already know what that foretells. The Russians, if it's Spetsnaz, they can do anything they fucking want. They can do a deep cover. You know, James Holmes, once it came out that he was not the same guy in the courtroom as was photographed before the event. All right. The guy that they captured could have been a sleeper agent, could have been a Russian agent, could have been anything. Russians are good at, shouldn't say Russians, Spetsnaz are good at fomenting insurrection and rebellion. So they can take a peaceful protest and with a few choice words turn it into a full-blown riot. We're seeing a lot of that here, Anaheim. So a lot of the events you see out there, don't take it at face value. Look into it. There have been numerous witness accounts of Russians being on American soil. And it doesn't matter that the authorities aren't coming out and saying it. If people are seeing it, now I wish people would go ahead and record it and upload it, but, you know, I trust my sources as good as anybody else can trust theirs. It's looking like before the end of 2012, the shit is going to royally hit the fan. That's pretty much all I got for you right now. I don't want to go off on a rant or anything. Be that as it may, whatever the future may hold, remember the message I've been telling you all. All right? And some of you guys have already come back to me and said, hey, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm being a good person, and, you know, it's actually working out some days. Not a lot of people are going to thank you for it, but a lot of people will look back in the future and they'll see, wow, they might not even remember who you were, but they might say, oh, wow, that person, like, I didn't even know it at the time, but they really helped me out, and they might pass it forward. That's the beautiful thing about the gift of love. When you learn how to feel love, you don't want to keep it. You can't keep love. If you keep it to yourself, nobody benefits. Nobody benefits from love. You got to give it away. You got to give it away free of charge, free of thanks. You know? And this goes back to that long rant I had about that imaginary society. What if there was one that was built upon giving away what you own and don't absolutely need, you know? Where your status in society was not a factor of how much you're worth, but how much of what you're worth did you give away? You know, a society where Bill Gates would be the best guy in the world if he gave away all of his fortune and he lived like in a 2-bedroom apartment in the countryside where the rates aren't too high, and then stayed in that lifestyle instead of having this massive mansion. Imagine what kind of a world that would be, where instead of gaining satisfaction from getting all this material shit, we could get that satisfaction from saying, you know what, I gave away all my material shit to people who need that material shit in order to survive. Real quick before I let you go, and this kind of plays into it. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but there was a TV show a while back called Jim Henson's The Storyteller. Episode 1 was called The Soldier and Death. If you got Netflix or Hulu, look it up. I found it last night, and I'm glad I did, because I saw it as a kid, and I loved that story. Old Russian tale. But there's one part of it where, towards the beginning, the soldier, he's got 3 pieces of bread. He bought them with the last of his money that he earned from going to war. And he's on his way home, and he comes upon an old beggar guy, old dirty beggar. The guy is fiddling a tune. He's playing a fiddle. The soldier doesn't know how to fiddle, but he does know how to whistle. So he whistles along to the fiddler playing, and they play together. And when they're all done with that song, the soldier says, "You play really good fiddle, and I wish I could give you some money, but I don't have that, so I'm going to give you a piece of bread." And the fiddler says, "Thank you. May your whistle always be the best." He keeps going. He comes upon another beggar after a while, and this guy is playing some drums. Fiddler's playing some drums. So the soldier starts whistling a tune to the drum playing, and he starts dancing. And the beggar finishes the song eventually, finishes the tune, and the soldier says the same thing. You play a really good drum, and I wish I could give you some money for it, because that's some really good drum playing, but all I have is some bread. So here you go, you have a piece of bread. So now he's down to 1 biscuit out of 3. He comes upon a third beggar, and this guy is playing with a deck of cards. So they get into a little bit of a card game. And the beggar keeps pulling out a perfect hand. And the soldier's impressed, because he's good at playing cards. He knows what to look for when people are cheating, but the beggar's not doing any of that. He's just winning. So the soldier says, same thing. I wish I could give you some money, because that's some impressive card playing. All I have is one last piece of biscuit. I'll give you half of it. And he's about to give the beggar half of it, and he realizes, you know what? Why would he want to give that guy less than he gave the other 2? Just because he has less to give? So he gives him his last biscuit. And then the beggar gives him his magic deck of cards, which will always win for the soldier, and a magic sack, which will always, whenever the soldier calls anything into it, whatever he calls will get thrown in the sack without any choice. And he continues on his way, and the story continues from there, and it's a very, very entertaining tale, and I loved it as a kid. If you got kids of your own, if they're old enough to understand all the words and everything, I'm sure they'll love it too. Jim Henson did an excellent job when it came to his special effects and his storytelling, so I loved it. I'm going to leave you with that. It's even if it's your last biscuit, give it away. And as long as you're wholehearted about it and not two-faced about it, as long as you're doing the right thing for the sake of being a good person, for the sake of helping somebody else, then it'll come back. It'll come back tenfold. It'll come back, and you will never, you'll never want for food or wealth or whatever it is that you need ever again. And that's just how karma works, and it's all part of this cosmic energy matrix, spiritual realm, whatever you want to call it. It's all out there, and it all exists. How else can you explain the fact that faithful believers of all world religions, when they truly believe and they're truly faithful and they truly love others as they're told to by their scriptures, good things come to them, and not always in material wealth, not always in stuff that can be measured, scientifically. They get, corny as hell to say it, they get rich in love by giving it away. Y'all stay safe now. Good luck. If the shit hits the fan today, if the shit hits the fan next month, just remember what I said. And no matter what your skill set is, whether you're trained to kill, whether you're trained to build, whether you're trained to work with computers, electricity, farming, whatever it is, you know, maybe giving it away will be the way to go when the next economy, the next paradigm comes at us. Peace, everybody.